good to have you back, and thank you for joining us. Well, we have another HEI, home equity investment lawsuit. This one coming out of the state of Colorado, and it's Unison in the crosshairs of at least a legal claim. So we're going to dive into this recent story from the NBC affiliate, Channel 9 in Denver, Colorado. A Colorado couple thought they'd signed a contract for an interest-free loan. They could owe triple what they initially received. And just from the start, I want to say that these stories are very unfortunate because you have hardworking individuals, many who are retired, who perhaps are not very financially savvy, who get caught or at least hooked by the promise of a no payment loan, no interest, not fully understanding the consequences down the road. And that's precisely what happened in this case. A Colorado couple filed a federal lawsuit this week seeking class action status against a home investment company that owns an option on a significant portion of their centennial home. The plaintiffs, Chuck and Kate Kane, accused the company, Unison, of violating several lending and credit laws and violating Colorado's Consumer Protection Act when they offered them a product called a equity sharing agreement, which offers homeowners an upfront payment in exchange for an option to purchase a percentage of their home. And timing is everything. The Kanes received their $87,000 lump sum from Unison 8 years ago. And we all know just how much homes have appreciated since that time, especially during and right after the COVID-19 pandemic. The couple has learned their equity means they could owe that company more than $278,000 on the profits of the home sale today. They offer a product using certain language. Consumers enter into that product and then they discover they didn't get what they thought they got at the outset, said Elizabeth Aniskovich, the Kane's attorney. And Unison is facing similar lawsuits in other states as well as other HEI or home equity investment companies. And it's really boiling down to how these products are marketed. But as we dive into the story, we'll just see how tricky a particular salesman was with the Kanes. The Kanes said they received a flyer from Unison in 2018, and when her husband looked at it, he said it looked like a good deal because they had talked about redoing their kitchen and they wanted to put their house up for sale so they could downsize. And here's the red flag that really stands out to show how those who are not financially savvy can be easily and psychologically manipulated. So Chuck Kane said he called the number and spoke to a sales representative by phone. He said he made fast friends with a man who was from Michigan and shared a love of football. Over the course of their 3 or 4 phone calls, Kane said he even sent the man a Barry Sanders practice jersey he owned to thank him for his help. And that sounds suspiciously like emotional manipulation. Now, this salesman focused on 2 facets of the Unison agreement. That is interest-free and also no required monthly payments. You know the old saying, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. When they agreed to the deal, the home was appraised at $523,000, and then the notary arrived with a lengthy contract. We tried our best to understand it, and some of the paperwork at the end, we didn't understand hardly any of it, Chuck Kane said. But now they have a surprise because now they have a $278,000 obligation to Unison if they sell their home based on the home equity investment agreement. This home equity investment was done under the framework of an options contract, and what the Kanes didn't realize is that it gave Unison a 70% share in future home appreciation. And with the Kanes' home now being worth an estimated $790,000, that means that Unison would get $278,000 of that accumulated equity, leaving them with only 30% of the appreciated gain. The plaintiff's lawsuit alleges that equity sharing agreements operate more like a consumer loan, mortgage, or even a reverse mortgage and should be subject to legal and consumer protections required for the loans. And I understand how the uninitiated or those that are not familiar with reverse mortgages could make that comparison. But as opposed to a home equity investment contract or HEI, a reverse mortgage is very clear about the accumulated loan balance or negative amortization if the homeowner chooses not to make any monthly payments of principal or interest. And Colorado's 9 News notes that there is, yes, another case involving Unison within the state of Colorado. Unison argued that the clients have ample time to review the documents involved in the transaction, including language encouraging homeowners to seek legal or financial advice. But let's be honest, most homeowners don't have the resources to go pay an attorney to review this if they're perhaps house rich and cash poor. And how many actually do take it to an attorney for a review? So this story is just yet another reminder how home equity investments have put many older homeowners in a very precarious position, perhaps torpedoed their plans for retirement. And then lastly, too many states are now seeking to regulate home equity investments such as Unison as a reverse mortgage, and that association only really cast another dispersion on the home equity conversion mortgage and reverse mortgage marketplace. It's official. There has been a monumental shift in the reverse mortgage marketplace, and for that, we only need to look at the numbers. Housing Wire reports that proprietary reverse mortgage loan volume now exceeds HECM production when it comes to dollar volume for the first time. NewView Advisors released their recent proprietary reverse mortgage production index for the first quarter of 2026, and it revealed that private label loan products have grown to new heights. And drawing from different data sources and publicly available data, NewView Advisors is able to come up with an estimate of the aggregate dollar volume for proprietary or private reverse mortgage loan products. The company reported that from January through the end of March, proprietary loan production totaled $953 million, and that was up from the $730 million the previous quarter and more than double the volume of $470 million in the first quarter of 2025. So we can see there is a very amplified growth trajectory when it comes to private reverse mortgages. NewView Advisors noted that in their previous quarterly report, proprietary loan share, as represented in dollar volume of all reverse mortgage marketplace, grew from an estimated 30% by the end of 2024 to 45% at the end of 2025. But then we had this shift when we saw that the aggregate dollar volume now is 52% of the reverse mortgage marketplace, meaning that these private loans now exceed the home equity conversion mortgage. Looking at today's market, it comes as no surprise that we're seeing such a surge in proprietary reverse mortgage loan production, especially when you consider that HECM loan endorsement volume has been relatively stagnant in recent years. HECM endorsements in 2025 were relatively flat according to data compiled by Reverse Market Insight. By the way, RMI does provide the data for our monthly Top 100 Retail HECM Lenders report. And of the top 3 lenders, Mutual of Omaha Mortgage, Finance of America, and Longbridge Financial, they did maintain their control and accounted for 55% of the aggregate HECM market when it comes to endorsements, and that was slightly down from 57% in 2024. In Reverse Market Insight's newsletter commentary, they point to some of the possible reasons for this market shift. We still don't have comprehensive data there, but what we can piece together looks like the growth in unit volume has been almost entirely in the proprietary products for several years, particularly when we exclude HECM refinance waves from 2018 to 2022. And perhaps there is another force at play when it comes to this surge in proprietary or private reverse mortgage offerings. We have seen some uncertainty when it comes to the future of HECM regulations, as evidenced by the recent request for information in the Federal Register. They floated some interesting ideas, a few, quite frankly, that would be harmful to HECM lending. The agencies held a comment period that ended in January and generated several responses from originators, servicers, trade groups, and other stakeholders. Beyond market forces, this may also be by design, by HUD's design. HUD has openly stated in previous years that they hope to actually encourage more private reverse mortgage loans and less reliance solely on the federally insured home equity conversion mortgage. The media often says that baby boomers are one of the more wealthy generations, but they also may have some spending habits that are hurting their quality of life in retirement. And for this, we go to a recent column in Money Digest. The worst baby boomer spending habits you should avoid entirely. Baby boomers have amassed a significant volume of wealth collectively. Money Digest reports that baby boomers have accumulated more than half of the nation's total wealth, commanding estimates reach as high as $88.5 trillion in total assets in 2025. Baby boomers oftentimes have more than one home and possess nearly $19 trillion in collective real estate assets. But even with all that wealth, there are still some financial issues to be dealt with among their households. And even with all this wealth held by baby boomers, there are still some financial issues that are impacting households. Money News points to some interesting ways that baby boomers can easily go astray when it comes to managing their day-to-day finances. And here are just a few. One is deceptive sales pricing or getting hung up on discount offers, which they feel they have to buy the item. And they tend to be a little bit more wasteful with their utilities and groceries than those in different generations. And here's the breakdown where baby boomers are wasting money and perhaps can be a little bit more frugal and mindful of their spending. Boomers spend the largest percentage of their cash flow on essentials, or what they deem to be essentials, when compared to other generations, including items such as healthcare, which naturally averages out to a higher cost as you get older. However, these essentials also include things such as an electricity bill, which one has to pay, transportation costs, and housing. So this is a murky area in any financial advisor's discussion when they're meeting with a client. What are your essential expenses? And oftentimes there are areas where they can cut back on waste and save some money. Moving into a smaller home generally helps to reduce the mortgage or rent payments, but it also helps to lower the cost of heating or cooling that space. And the column points to one strategy which I refer to as supercharging the HECM for purchase, and that is not only downsizing, but moving to a lower cost area and perhaps to a state that doesn't have any income tax. Many of you, like myself, have witnessed this firsthand sitting at hundreds of kitchen tables where we've seen baby boomer homeowners waste a tremendous amount of food. Now, myself personally, I think leftovers are wonderful and we don't want to be wasteful of food, but it's happening more in this particular generation. Quite interesting. Throwing out leftover and expired food from the store is a commonplace phenomena across all age groups. The average sits at 21%, according to reporting from the Motley Fool. And baby boomers are under another financial pressure that could lead to unnecessary spending or financial leakage, and that is supporting their adult children. Perhaps some of them could be better off by supporting themselves. Older Americans often find it difficult to watch their children struggle, notes the column. And those who have the means to help their children should absolutely do so. But many older Americans subscribe to the idea of dying with nothing, spending all their assets on themselves and their loved ones while they're still here rather than passing it on. Some of those homeowners you're meeting with today have no interest in accumulating assets. And that's not too surprising considering they're in the decumulation phase of retirement where they are slowly liquidating their assets and, yes, even their home equity. And the fourth habit that is undermining baby boomers' financial security is actually, very psychological. According to a National Debt Relief Survey in 2023, just 27% of Americans reportedly consider their spending and saving habits as excellent. Also adding that baby boomers were found to be particularly resistant to reevaluating their financial habits and spending, and that age group showed the lowest rate of possessing the information that is needed to make better financial decisions or habits, while also being the least likely to believe that they even make poor financial choices. Only 1% in this generation say they waste money daily, compared to a 6% rate that is found amongst Gen Z and 8% of millennials.